Welcome back to the Post Frame Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the big, beautiful bill. Well, today we've got Matt Martin here with us. Matt, thanks for coming up.
Yes, sir.
It's up, over, or where are you actually at?
About an hour and 20 minutes. We're south of 74, about 10 mile.
Okay.
So on US 41, so kind of south and west of Crawfordsville, about 20 mile.
Okay.
So right on the Illinois line.
You got cell service there? Because whenever I travel 41,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
It is no man's land.
Yeah, actually, it's improved over the last couple of years. So we're pretty close to Turkey Run State Park.
Oh, there you go.
Everybody typically knows where Turkey Run State Park is.
That's a good center point to reference.
The southern edge of where we farm kind of borders there, because it seems like when you get very far south of us, the landscape changes and it becomes very scenic and not real productive. So we're right on the edge of that. So
Well, yeah, update us a little bit. How long you been farming? Any details about family, farm life? What do you guys got going on?
So I graduated from college in '89, got married in '89, was going to work a professional job. And when I married my wife, and a couple months after we were married, I came home and said, "Hey, I'm going to move back and start farming on the family farm." So she was a city girl, and so it's been an adjustment for her, and therefore an adjustment for me also. But we've been grain farming now for since 1989. We'll celebrate, I think it's our 37th wedding anniversary here, 36th here in a couple weeks. So that's kind of neat. 3 kids, 3 grandkids, and so that's a neat experience having grandkids. We're actually watching them right now, and so that's
if I have to shake you and wake you up a little bit.
Yeah, I may need a short nap to finish our program here, but yeah, that's awesome. So we raise mainly corn and soybeans. We're in 6 counties there, west central Indiana and into Illinois. We farm a little bit into Illinois, so geographically we're kind of spread out a little bit there, but one main location at Kingman.
Okay.
And so got a great group of guys that help us, and we've got a great set of buildings from FBI.
That's right.
And so
good plug.
So yeah,
good way to work that in.
So we've got several buildings from you folks, and so that's been a great relationship, great experience, from farm shop to machinery storage buildings to fertilizer. We've got our own dry fertilizer set up. So that was specifically designed by you guys, kind of the way that we wanted. So that relationship's been great. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate you guys having me up to discuss some of the things that are going to affect us in agriculture here in the future. So
yeah, for sure. Before we start diving into some of those topics, did you was your family in farming? Did you step back in '89? Did you step back into the family farm, or were you a new farming generation?
So
at that
yes,
point?
my family had farmed. My grandfather had moved to our area back in the late '40s. And started farming, and then my dad had farmed with him, and so when I decided to go back, it was about the time my grandfather was retiring, and so he helped me get started some. I farmed with my dad. We've always farmed as kind of a partnership until he retired 4 years ago. So it was kind of nice to have the flexibility to kind of farm on my own. We farmed separate ground, separate equipment, and then we would own some stuff together and rent some farms together. So it was great having a partnership with him and being able to work together, but it also afforded me the flexibility to kind of do things on my own also. So I appreciated that from both of them, which is kind of the way they both operated also. So my wife and I now are just sole proprietors, and I think hoping someday maybe to get a son-in-law or a son back in and help us, and we'll see how that moves forward. We've got a couple little grandsons that seem to love the ag side, so they all love tractors and all the machinery, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah, that was gonna be my next question, is what's the next generation looking like of interest? And because that's actually one of the points we wrote about that's in the Big Beautiful Bill, that they're trying to reshape or at least extend some of the changes they had made on some estate tax stuff, which I didn't grow up with a farming background. Well, I'm somewhat connected. My grandparents, but my family, my mom, dad didn't actually farm. But anyways, as it relates to some of that, I think there was some extension, or actually making permanent some broader estate tax benefits when you look at transferring down land, assets of really any kind from one generation to the next. And from what I'm understanding, and you may have a better grasp on this, Matt, but it was maybe, I don't know what amount less than this, but I think it was raised, or at the very least made permanent, about $15 million per individual. And so if a couple is passing down a farm, that could amount to 30 million of assets that can be transferred down tax free, is what I'm understanding. And again, I'm not in the nuts and bolts of it, but so I guess my question on that is maybe comment on that, of if you think about from a farmer's lens, you having taken over things from your folks, now starting to think about next generation. What does that do from a farmer in that spot? What opportunities does that open up, or what sort of benefits does that bring around some of those estate tax changes?
I think that's a big deal. I know, to make it really personal, my wife and I had started looking in that direction, and so we'd been meeting with some estate attorneys and in the last couple years, and it's kind of interesting. We put on hold until the election exactly what we were going to do because of this exact situation that you're talking about. So I think it makes it easier for us to plan. And nowadays, especially like a customer base of yours that is make an investment in buildings or whatever it is they're investing in, it becomes a large amount very quickly. And so the net value of a farm family anymore is exponentially larger than it used to be. And so that becomes, you don't have to own very many acres, and all of a sudden you're up against those limits. So yeah, it is nice. I think it was going to drop back to, if 4.5 million potentially, if this bill didn't pass or it wasn't included in it. And so now
Which could have been really constricting.
would have been really constricting for an average size farm, or a large grain farm, or you take some of these livestock farms, they're really large. I can imagine what some of those buildings cost that you guys are putting up, and so the size of them. But so yeah, this is a big deal. I think it makes it easier from a transition standpoint. And instead of trying to figure out how you can pass that wealth on without it being taxed, and so you have to have a larger amount of wealth to end up with a net. And so I think it's a really big deal, and I think you're right on there in what you're saying about how that's easier, and the husband and wife both get that amount. So that's a really big deal.
Yeah, and I think to your point around planning, and like you even just mentioned there, holding off until some policy things come into place, and then now understanding what that landscape is going to look like. We've even had customers say, "Hey, we're going to put off a building because we're not totally sure what that's going to totally do to the value, how that could impact some of that transition." And so it feels like dependability, absolutely, the broadness of it, or the size of it, is going to open up more options for people. But even just having the dependability of knowing what it is, because I do think it's permanent. I don't think there's a peel back or a timeline of reduction or something like that, which is going to bring a lot of dependability for people to be able to plan.
Yeah, it gives us a lot of security.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, because it's a big deal. It's your legacy. It's what you've done, and so to see that taxed away becomes
Yeah, it hurts, right? Yeah, I mean, and it's limiting for that next generation, depending on how that transfer happens. And I'm sure every farm family is probably different in that, whether it happens at death or there's trust. I mean, there's many ways to set that up. That can be a big burden to the next generation.
Absolutely. And so this makes it a lot easier also.
Well, let's maybe talk about another thing that's maybe a spinoff of that conversation, but is that there's some things in the bill that are targeted at some beginning farmers. And I don't know what all these terms necessarily mean, but there was some provisions in there around adding additional base acres, that I think can help, from what I'm understanding, can help play to insurability for maybe some smaller farm families, that are either just getting in, or that their acreage is a little smaller. Do you have some concept of what base acres mean, and how that's worked into some insurability calculations, or help educate us a little bit on that?
So in that particular instance, I don't know exactly what they're talking about. I do know from the crop insurance and the revenue side, which is all kind of tied together, in what you're talking about. So it makes it, especially for the younger guys coming in, and with the large amount of capital requirement and and the risk and everything that those guys are. I mean, we're all experiencing it, but it's even harder for a young guy. And so I think that gives them some stability, if you will. They're able to use risk management tools more to their advantage.
Yeah.
And so those tools, whether it's crop insurance or whether it's the base acres or whatever that is through the program with the FSA offices and stuff, it gives them some stability there, gives them something to go when they're going to the bank, and makes it like, okay, we've got a consistent cash flow here. We've got something that we can bank on. So I think it is going to give the younger guys a leg up. I've got a son that's 22. And so we're potentially going to be crossing that bridge here at some point also. So it's nice to see the support for the younger generation there, because we need that. There's so many guys that are exiting the business. And in times like this, when the financial side of it is so uncertain, I don't blame those guys. I mean, they've got a large amount of capital, and their operating capital's high, and so it's a great time for them to exit before they feel the squeeze. So, but at the same time, we need these young guys coming in, and we're a dwindling number. And so,
Well, I've heard it said, almost every year, every growing season for a farmer is a little bit like being at Vegas, right? You're rolling the dice with some pretty big amounts of dollars, right? To front load your expenditures on seed, and obviously you've got your main ones of equipment and land and all that stuff, but you're rolling the dice with some pretty large amounts of money. And then depending on how the growing season goes, that to me feels like, between the base acres thing, between the I think there's even some it's either reference what yields or baseline yields are being referenced for some insurance payouts, like to have some dependability when you are rolling those big of dice is a big deal.
it's huge,
So
huge.
let's maybe transition to the final big point that we've felt the benefit from in years past, but has been changing, is really this bonus depreciation. And the way I'm understanding it, there's a couple different terms. There's the bonus depreciation, and then there's Section 179, and there's maybe some nuanced difference, but I think they're both aimed at the same thing, is incentivizing investment. Right,
Absolutely.
where you can gain some benefit tax-wise, or reprieve, I should say, maybe on your taxes for the sake of that investment. And this isn't the first time this has been here, right? We saw this. When did 100% start the first time? Was it maybe 2011 or 12?
Yeah, I was going to say 15 years ago, maybe, but not being a tax man, I mean, yeah. So I hate to state to a specific year, but yes, it's been a while. So
Yeah, and so that went into place a decade and a half roughly ago, and then I believe over the last however many years that's been stepping its way down.
it's been phased out.
It's been phasing out about 20% a year. I think it got down to 20% reduction or deductions on the current year's taxes for those sort of eligible investments. And now that thing skyrocketed back up, I believe, permanently. That's the other nuances of some of these bills. Some of them have some time extensions. Some of them are in perpetuity. But I believe this is one that's got some permanency to it, of being able to write those things off in the calendar year or within the year you put it into place to really help your tax spot. So as a farmer, like what's that do? How does that start impacting decisions as you see a benefit like that come to light?
Yeah, I think that, depending on how a guy is set up yearly on taxes and in your accountant, and of course, it seems like you can talk to 3 different accountants, and you get a different interpretation, so you obviously want to speak with your own accountant and how you're set up and how your depreciation's been in the past and how much carryover you have and all that. But I know for me, it's nice, in years last couple of years have been kind of lean with commodity prices, so it's not like there's a huge influx of cash out there at the time, but it does make it nice that when a guy wants to make a capital investment, that you do have, even if you don't use all that at one time, but it helps you manage your tax liability also. So it gives us the freedom to, okay, if we want to go ahead and spend that money this year and deduct it all this year, okay, great. So let's put a building up, and, because in the past, we were limited on how many years we could do a building. So it was actually probably a bit of a disadvantage for you guys versus, if a guy's going to go buy a piece of equipment or you're going to put up a building, okay, if we couldn't expense it immediately, which they'd kind of taken away from us, then maybe something that we could expense sooner became a little more intriguing to us. Whereas now for you guys, I think it'll be awesome. Guys can put up buildings, and it seems like the size of the farms, with the guys, a lot of the guys retiring, the size of the farms is increasing. So our demand for bigger shops, equipment's bigger. So bigger shops, bigger machine sheds, bigger doors. I mean, it all plays together, and so I think that'll be huge for you guys in the upcoming years. Here is that okay? These farms are expanding, the equipment's expanding, it's getting bigger, and so we're going to have that need. So I think it's going to make it way easier to make that decision instead of having to depreciate that thing out over multiple years.
Yeah.
And it gives us a lot of freedom.
Yeah. To your point, depending on, and it's not like the way I'm understanding is you're talking about that is you don't have to take the whole 100% in that year. You have the flexibility to, right? And so then depending on the commodity price at the time, what your yields end up being, you may need that, right? You may have a much better year than maybe expected, or than maybe the past ones, or leave some of that for some other some of that deduction for other leaner years where you really want to shave down your tax burden or payouts. Yeah, I didn't even really think about that aspect. To me, it was fairly cut and dry, right? Bring it to this year, put it all into place in the year that you do it.
And depending on what situation the guy's in, I mean, let's face it, we're we're buying, as you say, we buy everything at retail and sell at wholesale, and so we're kind of, I mean, we are a small business, all of us, and so it makes it more flexible. So we're buying, sometimes inputs even 18 months ahead, if you will. So it gives us the opportunity to balance whether it's buying inputs or capital investments or whatever. And so when you've got a good accountant, and good tax man, you can make that all fit together, and you can kind of, if you will, you can kind of create your own recipe, if you will, for what. So this gives us the flexibility to do that, and still be able to be very successful at putting that program together on how do we want a tax plan. So I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's just as I listen to you talk, Matt, it's amazing the complexities that, not growing up in it, and in my experience in farming, I was riding with my grandpa on either a cabless tractor, or when in the combine, he had a tiny cab, and I got to sit on a little platform right outside, getting the bean dust caked all over me. And so farming was this, to me, it was this, and which it still is, but this hard work grind of go put stuff out in the field, wait a few months, go get it, and you put enough hard work into it, and you'd be able to manage it. There's a lot of, and which, while that is still absolutely the case, it's not like the work's got easier. I don't want to insinuate that by any means. I might get some farmer comments coming back on what I'm saying there. But the complexities from the business side it just seems like as the operations have gotten bigger, to your point around just the costs of things. I mean, I don't know what a combine is now versus what it used to be 20 years ago, but you're dealing with some serious amounts. You're dealing with some serious tax complexities that I hope a lot of these provisions of the bill will be able to bring some help in, but there's a lot of complexities there. And it's, for me being an outsider looking in, it'd be a lot, I feel like, to try to navigate.
Yeah, I think that, there's days when you wake up and you're like, wow, how did we get here? And so when I started farming, and there's guys that's got a lot more experience than I do, but, I'll be 60 here in a year and a half. So that, kind of get into a spot in your career where you're like, oh, wow. But, when I started, we, just our land costs now, we didn't even used to gross that much raising corn, just what our cost is. And so yeah, you're like, wow, how did I get to this place, and how do I best steward what I've been given? And so I think that, I think this helps us. I think all this stuff is a big deal. And, back to whether it's taxes or whether it's, I mentioned the crop insurance thing, and that's a big deal. When you can, I think we're fortunate and we're blessed to be in the business that we're in, where we can actually insure, a baseline revenue. And so I think that's a huge blessing, and that this bill helps that also. It funnels more money into that. So
Had there been when was kind of the last major reform on some farm bill
Well, of course,
stuff? I mean, it's been a little bit,
yes,
right?
it's been a while,
It's
and
been a bit of a long time coming.
yes, for this, and so this was so supportive, and if you get into some of the alternative energy issues and stuff like that, so there's a lot of that stuff that is in this bill that I would challenge. I would challenge guys to go, and look at your information and the stuff that you guys have put out. I think you're championing that very well. And it's very well presented in some of the stuff that you guys have. So yeah, I think it's a bigger deal than what we realize. Some of us seem like some of us farmers, if it's not a picture in a magazine or we don't hear it at the coffee shop, we don't. Some of us don't tend to delve into some of that stuff, and I think it's worth taking a look at because it's gonna affect us and it's gonna affect the next generation also, in a very positive way, I think.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I was going to ask you for a nice little wrap of the conversation and asking farmers to go look at this stuff, but you just did that. You're pretty natural at segue into a nice summer.
Well, I don't know about that, but I do think I think when you see the benefit and you see the value in something, and I think you guys at FBI, your relationship with the ag community, I think, is incredible. It has been with me. Superior product, great people, and a mission that is good for all of us. And so this just highlights that. And so you guys making the effort to talk about it, to bring it to the public, and to have publications for it, I think, is a really, really big deal. So I would challenge guys, as I said, to go take a look. And I thank you guys for making us all aware of it.
Yeah. Well, Matt, thanks for being here. Really appreciate your insights and your willingness.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been
Absolutely.
great.
For more content like this, please like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next video.